Undercover CEO applies for a loan in his own bank. The corrupt manager tries to scam him. A 74-year-old man dressed in worn-out clothes walks into a bank hoping for a small loan to repair his home. Instead, he walks out humiliated, scammed, and heartbroken. But what the arrogant manager didn't know, that old man is the billionaire founder of the bank itself, and he just exposed the darkest scam in his own bank. It was a biting cold Monday morning in early December. Walter Hargrove, a 74-year-old man with gentle eyes and a weathered face, shuffled toward the entrance of a downtown Liberty Oak Bank branch, the very bank he'd founded with his late wife nearly 4 decades ago. But today nobody would recognize him. Dressed in faded slacks, a wrinkled flannel shirt, and scuffed-up loafers, he looked like just another struggling retiree. His gray hair peeked out from under an old brown cap, and in his trembling hands he clutched a yellowed folder filled with personal documents and a water-damaged home insurance letter. Inside, the bank gleamed like a corporate palace, glossy marble floors, digital kiosks buzzing, and ambient music humming softly. Employees moved briskly, their tailored suits and manicured appearances polished like showroom mannequins. Walter's steps slowed as he took it all in. The bank had grown, but so had the distance between the mission and the reality. He approached the counter and gave a warm smile to the young teller, who didn't return it. She barely glanced at him before muttering, "Loan inquiries are over there," and motioned to a desk in the back corner. Walter made his way there, only to be intercepted by a man with slick black hair, a silver tie clip, and the kind of grin that didn't quite reach the eyes. Brent Wallace, the branch manager. Brent glanced Walter up and down with thinly veiled contempt. "Let me guess," he said, smirking. "You're here for a loan?" "Yes, sir," Walter replied softly but confidently. "I had some flood damage recently, and I'm just looking for a small home loan to help with repairs. My credit is—" Brent cut him off with a wave of his hand. "Look, Grandpa, I don't need the sob story. I can already tell this isn't going anywhere." Walter blinked. "Excuse me?" "You heard me," Brent said louder, for the nearby tellers to hear. "This isn't some kind of charity service. You walk in looking like that, talking about a pension check, and expect us to hand you money? We're not in the business of throwing cash at people who can't pay it back." Walter tried to hold his composure. "But I can. I've never missed a payment in my life. Here's my paperwork." Brent laughed and leaned back in his chair, folding his arms. "Let me guess. You've got great credit, but no real income. You're probably one of those guys who takes out loans just to disappear. Or worse, you want someone to bend the rules for you?" Walter's voice wavered, but stayed firm. "I'm just asking for fair treatment." Brent leaned forward with a wicked grin. "Unless you've got a little motivation for me under that folder, there's nothing I can do." Walter's brows furrowed. "You mean a bribe?" Brent looked around casually, then whispered, "Call it whatever you want. $2,000 in cash and I'll see what I can push through. No paper trail, no promises." Walter stood, stunned. "That's illegal," Brent sneered. "So is being poor and expecting a bank to save you. Now, unless you want me to call security for loitering, I suggest you leave. We have real clients to deal with." Heads turned. Customers stared. Walter's face flushed red with shame. But deep inside, something burned hotter than humiliation. Fury. Walter sat quietly in the corner lobby chair, the folder still clutched in his lap, hands trembling. Not from age, but from restraint. His breathing had steadied, but his mind raced. He hadn't been treated like that since he was a poor young man scraping by in the 70s. He watched as Brent moved from one desk to another, flashing his fake smile and schmoozing clients. But it was what he saw next that tightened the knot in Walter's chest. A young woman walked in, maybe 25, dressed in a cheap coat and clearly anxious. Walter heard bits of her conversation with Brent. "My daughter's surgery is scheduled next week. I just need something short-term. Please," she said, nearly pleading. Brent nodded, smiling too warmly. "Of course, sweetheart. We want to help families." She opened her purse and slid an envelope across the table discreetly. Brent glanced at it, nodded, and winked. "You're approved. No questions asked." Walter's jaw clenched. Then as Brent walked toward the back office, he overheard Brent through the glass door speaking to a teller, unaware that his mic was still faintly audible over the intercom system. "You see that guy earlier? The old one with the sad eyes?" Brent chuckled. "Deny him. They're the easiest targets. Say it's a credit issue or missing paperwork. Whatever. Pocket the review fees and then sell off their application info to my guy downtown. We get a cut when he pushes loans through back channels. Win-win." The teller hesitated. "Isn't that fraud?" Brent's voice lowered, deadly serious now. "You want to keep your job or play hero?" Walter's heartbeat roared in his ears. His life's work, the very bank he built to protect the vulnerable, was being twisted into a machine for corruption, and people were suffering while Brent grew richer by the day. Walter didn't storm out. He sat back in the chair, silent, watching, planning. Minutes passed. Walter sat still in the lobby, his heart hammering in his chest. Then Brent strutted out from the back office and motioned for him to return. "Come on, Grandpa," he said loud enough for the room to hear. "Let's talk business." Walter approached, slower this time, the weight of each step pressing deeper into the tiled floor. Brent gestured for him to sit, then dropped into his own leather chair with a smug grin. "So here's the deal," Brent said, tapping his pen like a drumbeat. "You're not getting the loan. You don't meet the modern criteria, whatever that means." He smirked. Walter furrowed his brow. "But you haven't even checked my documents." "I don't need to," Brent snapped. "Your age, your clothes, your whole vibe. It screams risk." "But," he leaned forward, lowering his voice to a conspiratorial whisper, "if you want me to find a way, it'll cost you $2,000. Cash. Up front. Non-refundable. Got it?" Walter blinked in disbelief. Is that official policy now?" Brent chuckled and leaned back, lacing his fingers behind his head. "Nope. That's my policy. Consider it a processing fee for the right connections." He winked. Walter sat up straighter. "I built this bank to help working people, to give dignity to those who were denied it elsewhere. This isn't what Liberty Oak was meant to be." Brent stared at him for a moment, then burst into uncontrollable laughter. "You built this?" He slapped the desk, still chuckling. "That's rich. What's next? You invented the internet too?" But as he saw Walter's steady gaze, calm, unwavering, and not amused, Brent's laughter abruptly died. His face hardened. He leaned forward, voice dropping cold. "You don't get to walk in here dressed like a beggar and insult me with fairy tales. You want a story, old man? Here's one. You're just another broke retiree begging for a loan you'll never repay. And if you ever suggest I don't know how to run my branch again..." Walter's jaw tightened. "I'm not asking for charity. I'm asking for fairness." Brent stood abruptly, knocking his chair back with a thud that made nearby customers glance over. "Enough. You don't belong here. You're wasting our time." Walter slowly rose, but before he could say a word, Brent shouted across the bank, loud enough for everyone to hear, "You heard me, Grandpa. Get lost." Heads turned. Conversations froze. Phones were lowered. Walter stood still, humiliated, as eyes darted between him and the arrogant manager. One teller, a young man, looked visibly uncomfortable, his lips parted as if to speak, but he said nothing. Walter swallowed hard, blinked back the sting in his eyes, and slowly turned. With his folder pressed against his chest like a shield, he shuffled toward the glass doors, his back burning from the stares and sneers. As the doors slid open and the cold wind hit his face, Walter didn't stop. He didn't look back. His heart ached. But in his chest, beneath the sadness, something else had begun to burn. Resolve. Planning. The next morning, a message was sent to every employee at the Liberty Oak downtown branch. Mandatory staff meeting at 8 a.m. sharp. No exceptions. Whispers echoed through the sleek halls as tellers, associates, and assistant managers filed into the conference room, clutching their coffee cups and murmuring about what the urgency might be. Brent Wallace strolled in 10 minutes late, sunglasses on his head and phone in hand, smirking as always. "Let's make this quick," he said, flopping into his chair at the head of the table. "Some of us have deals to close." The room fell silent when the projector screen flickered to life. Click. A security camera feed began to play. On screen, everyone saw the front counter from the day before. There was an old man in faded clothes speaking politely. The audio kicked in. "I'm here to apply for a small home loan. I had some flood damage and..." Then came Brent's unmistakable voice, snide and cutting. "You're wasting your time, old man. This isn't some charity." Gasps rippled through the room. Eyes widened, hands covered mouths. Then another angle, a side view, Brent at his desk, speaking to a teller behind the glass. "Old people are easy. Deny them, pocket the fees, then resell the loans off books. Who's gonna check?" The air turned cold. Brent jumped to his feet. "Who's playing this? Who the hell?" Click. The feed stopped. The door opened. Walter Hargrove stepped inside. But he didn't wear faded slacks today. He wore a crisp navy blazer, polished leather shoes, and a silver name tag that shimmered under the fluorescent lights. CEO and founder, Walter Hargrove. The silence was deafening. Brent's face drained of color. "Wait, what? No, that's not..." Walter walked to the center of the room with the steadiness of a storm about to break. His voice was low, firm, and carved from stone. "Good morning," he said, his eyes sweeping the room. "Yesterday I came here not as your boss, but as a customer. I was judged, humiliated, and offered a bribe to approve a loan I never needed. What I saw, what I heard, it broke something in me." A teller's hand flew to her mouth. Another employee looked down in shame. No one dared to speak. Walter turned to Brent. "You took the bank I built from nothing and turned it into a machine that preys on the vulnerable. You mocked seniors. You pocketed illegal fees. You corrupted this place with arrogance and greed." Brent threw his hands up. "Sir, I didn't know it was you. If I had known..." Walter's voice cracked like thunder. "That's the problem. You didn't know. And worse, you didn't care. That old man could have been anyone's father. He could have been your father. But you saw weakness and smelled profit." Brent took a shaky step back. "Wait, this can't be legal. I've been your top performer." Walter's eyes didn't flinch. "You've been our top thief." Then he looked toward the glass doors. 2 uniformed security guards stepped in. Gasps echoed again. Someone dropped their coffee. Walter nodded. "You're done, Brent. Effective immediately. Your access is revoked. Charges will follow." Brent turned pale. "This is a setup. You can't do this to me." Walter stepped closer, voice like ice. "I'm not doing anything to you. I'm holding you accountable for what you did. To our customers, our reputation, and the values this bank was built on." The guards flanked Brent. He struggled. "I made this branch #1. I brought in profit. You'll regret this." Walter didn't blink. "The only thing I regret is not seeing the rot sooner." As Brent was escorted out, every employee sat in stunned silence. Walter turned to his shocked staff. His voice softened. "I built this bank with one goal, to help people. I started this company after my wife died, and I was left with 2 kids and a mortgage I couldn't pay. A kind banker took a chance on me, and I promised I'd do the same for others. But somewhere along the way, we lost that mission." He paused. "From today on, we're rebuilding. Every customer matters. Every story matters. And every staff member will be retrained. To serve, not to judge." Tears welled in some employees' eyes. One young teller whispered, "Thank you, sir. I needed to hear that." In the weeks that followed, Walter personally oversaw the retraining of every branch manager. He called every customer who had been denied unfairly and reevaluated their cases. The culture of corruption began to crack, and in its place, something stronger began to grow. A plaque was placed at the bank entrance with Walter's words engraved, "Never judge a book by its cover. Every person who walks through these doors deserves dignity, fairness, and respect." The old CEO had gone undercover and not only uncovered the rot within, but planted seeds for something far better. Subscribe for more true Undercover CEO stories, only on Undercover Files.